Hello everyone. I want to talk about some inspired Danganronpa text posts today, and specifically the information design within them. So, before we begin, these are all sourced from the Danganronpa text post Tumblr account linked here. I will try to keep the actual joke analysis to a minimum because that makes it less funny. There won't be any spoilers, but it might be harder to follow. Also, we're commonly going to be using the phrases transparent, translucent, and opaque. The use of terms is explained by this infographic below. So, to get into some categorizations of it, we have a very standard Danganronpa text post here. The format here is that you have a social media post, but you've edited the characters next to them. This indicates dialogue like a comic panel. This is in itself quite transformative because you can't help but somewhat fill in the context gaps that original social media always has. You don't know the poster here, but you know the characters, so you can infer the tone of voice, the comedic timing, the cadence. This inflection is what makes this joke more powerful. So, we also have a translucent subclass, whereby instead of next to it, we have the characters overlaid over them in a more translucent way. Instead of having them opaque next to them, we have them on the text translucent, which admittedly does make it a little harder to read. Whereas previously it was more of a comic book character dialogue, we now have the character almost infusing with the dialogue itself. It almost communicates that the character is being imbued with the text rather than being spoken by it, even though it can be spoken by it. Another format we have is opaque, but instead of next to the text being almost a part of the social media environment itself, you have the character and the social media post overlaid with them. This almost makes it like there's a placard over them, and it could still be dialogue, but it's almost more of like a statement about the character rather than dialogue. You could interpret it either way, but I feel like that's stronger with this format than the original comic next to them. We also have a slight variation whereby you have the opaque speaker in this case, but with a translucent subject, as you can see with Makoto and Joko over here. So this creates, because presumably these characters would not actually be standing next to each other, they'd be at least facing each other. So this tool of having the opaque one be the speaker and the translucent one be the subject creates a nice way to signal to the audience that they're less relevant but still the subject of the piece. It's not immediately obvious, but once you see it, you get the hang of it. Now we're going to look at some posts that do some interesting things with this. Let's start off with the Suichi toilet stare. This is forget it, being a detective with a stupid idea, and Suichi on the bottom left corner looking sad with his cap on. Here we have a compelling use of transparency, or translucency again. We have Suichi here acting as transparent to show that he is once again being imbued with or is the subject of this piece. However, it also doubles as like a more somber edit whereby, you're kind of fading over the panel. It implies a more somber, defeated tone, which works together in cohesion with his sprite as well as the tone of the text. So it is quite a multi-purpose and cohesive whole that's created here. Next we have Prison Madness.
How many of you have genuinely tried to fly? Genuinely.
Bro is losing it in that cell. So this is funny, not necessarily because of the Danganronpa edit. As always, this is something that the character would do. But what I think is great about the formatting here is that the quote retweet structure means that the original tweet by Andrew Tate is almost like contained within a cell of that larger retweet. It completely encapsulates it, and so the original has no breathing power on its own. It's contained within this mockery. Much like how Andrew Tate is completely encased in his cell in Romania. Next we have specific post 3, Daddy. This post, first of all, follows the rule of thirds format. We have the premise and then 3 comments by Miu, and we're using the character comic dialogue scene, so we can very much infer dialogue here. And what this does interestingly is that it communicates a character quirk while it has multiple stages. Like Miu's character quirk is that she is very abrasive until someone slightly challenges her, and then she falls into like embarrassment and insecurity again. But that interaction, you'd have to imply it if you have if you only have one image and one text. But through this putting of a comment section, you get a full view of that character trait, all 3 steps of it in one. So I think that's pretty cool. Next, we have the FMPreg posts. So what we have here is we have Miu and Kaede both wanting to get the other person in their relationship pregnant, which is Kibo and Suichi. So I had a discussion with some people about this, and I think the conclusion we reached is that pregnancy itself you could view as its own power dynamic, because the pregnant partner is more reliant on the non-pregnant partner to fulfill their needs. So you could almost see it as more of a, maybe you shouldn't, but it is, it can also be seen as a continuation of the power dynamics present in these relationships to begin with Kaede wanting to encourage Shuichi to get out of his shell, and Miu using Kibo as his own personal plaything. So I do think the more sexualized Miu-Kibo picture versus the more arguably wholesome Kaede and Shuichi picture really works well for the characters. And to top it all off, we have the opaque speaker and the translucent subject to demonstrate to the audience who the person is and what's being spoken to. Furthermore, I want to just very briefly about a bit more of the rule of 3s. Here we have 2 pictures. They have a different rhythm to them. We have, I'm calling the police, wait, a cab, I'm going to pay a biker gang to kick your ass. We have here a push, pull, push movement. Whereas on the other one, we have a post from a suspended account, a post from an account you blocked, and a post that violated the X rules. Instead of this is more of like a stumbling staircase of like, this is more of like a stumbling cacophony of failure. I think the last post I want to talk about is this one, which is, I think, actually quite funny, but unfortunately falls to some kind of poor formatting. Now, I know it's kind of hard to do with Discord. I can see how that may be an issue, but the text is like in the bottom left corner. It's much smaller and not centered. It doesn't read very well, especially compared to the size of Yasuhiro Dani. If I was to change this, I would put Dani next to it like the dialogue comic style we've seen before. I think that works well with the Discord. Or potentially even replace the profile picture with Dani. I think that would work well. That's all I have for you. Thank you for indulging my slight Danganronpa text post obsession. Thank you very much.